Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing, and our top story, the Pest Control Corporation, Terminix International Company LP, Terminix LP, and its U.S. Virgin Islands operation, Terminix International USVI LLC, Terminix USVI, were charged today with multiple violations of federal insecticide, Fungicide and Rodenticide Act for illegally applying fumigants containing methyl bromide in multiple residential locations in the U.S. Virgin Islands, including the condominium resort complex in St. John, where a family of 4 fell seriously ill last year after the unit below them was fumigated. The Department of Justice and Environmental Protection Agency made that announcement today. In a plea agreement, Terminix LP and Terminix USVI agreed to pay a total of $10 million in criminal fines, community service, and restitution payments, except for completing one government contract at the Port of Baltimore. Terminix LP has stopped using pesticides containing methyl bromide in the United States and U.S. territories. Under the agreement, Terminix USVI will pay $5 million in fines and $1 million in restitution to the EPA for response and cleanup costs at the St. John Resort. Terminix LP will pay a fine of $3 million and will fund a $1 million community service project in the USVI. According to the information filed, the defendants knowingly applied restricted use fumigants at the Serenusa Resort in St. John for the purpose of exterminating household pests on or about October 20th, 2014, and on or about March 18th, 2015. The companies were also charged with applying the restricted use pesticide in 12 residential units in St. Croix and 1 additional unit in St. Thomas. Meanwhile, reducing the use of pesticides in the Caribbean, it's a one-day conference on integrated pest management, free and open to the public, that's coming up on April 5th from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the University of the Virgin Islands Albert A. Sheen Campus, Great Hall, St. Croix, co-sponsored by Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Planning and Natural Resources. Attendees will learn from experts on how to reduce the use of pesticides and how to use sustainable solutions for pest control and the health issues associated with applying pesticides. There will also be a discussion on the Zika virus, and you must pre-register for that. In crime reports, St. Croix is rocked by the shooting deaths of 2 brothers. Gunfire was reported at Harmony Grocery Store in the Watergut area about 5 p.m. on Monday. Responding officers found 2 males lifeless on the ground. According to preliminary reports, the victims were playing dominoes in the vicinity of the grocery store when a male individual who was sitting in a red SUV reversed close to the victims, got out of the vehicle, and started firing shots towards victims. The suspect then fled the area in the vehicle. The victims were identified by next of kin as 33-year-old Kayon Payne and 29-year-old Kanta Payne of Estate Grove. Police are asking anyone with information regarding the incident to call the numbers on the screen or 911. In other news, island nations around the world are experiencing the striking effects of changing global temperatures because of climate change, and the Virgin Islands is no exception. This is why the local government pushed for federal funding to do studies on the territory's most vulnerable points when it comes to climate change. News 2's April Knight has more.
The Virgin Islands has to start taking climate change seriously. That's the message from Climate Change Coordinator Sean Michael Malone, whose office worked toward a major grant from the Department of Interior precisely for this purpose. The Climate Change Adaptation Planning Grant was awarded to the VI Climate Change Council to help prepare the territory for the impact of changing global climate. The $800,000 grant would go toward 2 years of research, finding aspects of the territory that are especially vulnerable to climate change.
Develop a plan without understanding vulnerabilities and risks that are germane to the U.S. Virgin Islands.
According to Malone, data gathering is especially important for the Virgin Islands not to miss out on federal grant funding opportunities.
For example, when we had that drought crisis last year, we were able to get a declaration from USDA right away because we lacked the data to justify one.
Malone said when the studies are done, future funding opportunities lie within the U.S. government.
We believe since the State Department is working with other developed countries to support climate change work in small developing countries around the world, we believe there has to be a carve-out for U.S. territories, knowing the limited funding available through Congress.
According to Malone, the territory, being a set of islands, is poised to be impacted by rising sea levels and other effects of climate change.
No, I don't believe, based on modeling I have seen done by our own university at the Virgin Islands, we don't see it really impacting the Virgin Islands for another 40 years or so. But the fact is, it will happen at some point in the future. Some will come from the U.S. government. We have to apply for grants, hopefully.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Meanwhile, Senate Vice President Jeanette Millen-Young is also joining the discussion on climate change. Her Committee on Economic Development, Agriculture and Planning has scheduled a meeting on Friday, April 1st at the Senate on St. Thomas to discuss global warming and the impacts of climate change on the territory's economic future. According to Millen-Young, the VI and its neighbors are experiencing the effects of climate change on water resources, agriculture, ecosystem, health, infrastructure, and economy. Agriculture Commissioner Carlos Robles and Federal Relations Coordinator Sean Michael Malone will be among the testifiers. The U.S. Department of the Interior's nearly $5 million in grant funding for the U.S. Virgin Islands will support a wide range of local government initiatives. In addition to climate change, planning, and adaptation, it aims to upgrade hospital infrastructure and equipment, increase public health services to underserved communities, repair public school buildings, renovate public libraries, and develop educational outreach programs, including $250,000 to the University of the Virgin Islands, public health prevention, $80,000 to the St. Thomas East End Medical Center Corporation, hospital equipment upgrades, $400,000 to the Wanaflui Hospital, a utility crane truck, $169,000 to the U.S. Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, Enid M. Ball Library, St. Thomas, $480,000 to complete structural renovations and technology upgrades, Regional Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, St. Croix, $105,000. Elaine Sproul Public Library, St. John, $100,000 for the design and installation of a photovoltaic system. Atherley Peterson Public Library, St. Croix, $190,000 for renovations. The Florence Williams Public Library on St. Croix, $125,000 to purchase and install an integrated security system and upgrades to the Insular Assessment of Buildings and Classrooms initiative, and that's $1,939,000. Well, as we mentioned earlier, U.S. Interior Secretary Sally Jewell will make her first official visit where she will highlight the important relationship Interior shares with the islands. As the Virgin Islands marks the 99th anniversary of its transfer to the United States and prepares for the centennial commemoration of that historic event, Secretary Jewell will be accompanied by Assistant Secretary for Insular Areas Esther Kiana. Jewell will meet with Governor Kenneth Mapp, deliver keynote remarks at the 99th Transfer Day ceremony, and join the U.S. VI Climate Change Council, as we mentioned. She will also visit the VI National Park on St. John on Wednesday and St. Thomas to underscore the Every Kid in a Park initiative, which connects young people to the outdoors, and meet with island leaders' National Historic Site on St. Croix. And speaking of Transfer Day, every year on March 31st, the territory remembers the transfer of the Virgin Islands from Denmark to the United States. The theme this year is 99 Years of Growth, Paving the Way to Our Centennial. Presented by the St. Croix Landmark Society, ceremonies begin on Wednesday, March 30th in Frederiksted St. Croix at 5:30 p.m. with a seaside tribute to the ancestors. A mini concert follows at Fort Frederick at 6:30. The forum, Transfer Revisited, moderated by Dr. Olaf Hendricks, will begin. On Thursday, March 31st at Fort Christianvern, the program will begin at 9 a.m. The formal program will include a naturalization ceremony on St. Thomas the same day. The ceremony will be held at the legislature grounds at 2:30 p.m. Well, the VIPD is reminding the motoring public of the following parking restrictions and street closings scheduled for the Transfer Day commemoration and U.S. naturalization ceremony in Christiansted. Parking restrictions are effective Thursday, March 31st from 6 a.m. until the completion of the event. No parking on King Street from Queen Cross Street to the Wharf area. No parking on Church Street between King and Company Streets. No parking on Strand Lane. No parking on Hospital Street between King and Company Streets. Any vehicle found parked in the restricted areas will be ticketed and or towed at the owner's expense. We'll turn our attention overseas with Europe on edge after the terror attacks in Brussels and families in Pakistan mourning loved ones killed in this weekend's suicide bombing. News of a hijacked Egyptian passenger jet Tuesday was cause for alarm. The suspect is now in custody, Reed Binion reports.
An Egypt Air flight landed in Cyprus Tuesday after being hijacked and diverted. Egypt Air flight MS-181 was en route from the Egyptian city of Alexandria to the capital, Cairo. Egypt Air's vice chairman told CNN the plane landed after reports of a passenger who claimed to be armed with an explosive belt.
We got a call into our operations room from the captain that he has information about one person who's claiming to have an explosive belt, and asked to divert the airplane to Istanbul or anywhere else in Europe.
The plane was diverted to Larnaca Airport in Cyprus, where negotiations with the hijacker resulted in the release of most of the plane's passengers. The hijacker's motive wasn't immediately clear. A spokesman for the Cyprus Ministry of Transport said the hijacking was not related to terrorism, but was instead related to an issue the suspect had with his ex-wife.
He was talking about having maybe a Cyprus wife that he wanted to talk to.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Meanwhile, the man authorities say hijacked the Egypt Air jet is now in custody. Sif Eldin Mustafa boarded a flight headed to Cairo Tuesday, and officials say he told the crew mid-flight he had an explosive belt. The Egyptian man forced the plane to land at Larnaca International Airport in Cyprus. Most of the passengers were evacuated, but 4 crew members and 3 passengers were still on the plane when authorities tried to talk Mustafa outside. More than 4 hours later, police arrested the hijacker and the hostages were freed. Police have not said how the arrest happened. They do say the reason behind the hijacking had something to do with the hijacker's ex-wife. Officials say the hijacker was unstable and appears to have been unarmed. Meanwhile, an update on the bombing of a park in Pakistan that injured more than 300 and killed 72 people on Sunday. 17 of those killed were minors. A splinter group of the Pakistani Taliban, Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, claimed responsibility for the bomb attack, saying it had targeted Christians, a tiny minority in mainly Muslim Pakistan. Pakistani authorities investigating the explosion detained more than 5,000 suspected militants over the last 48 hours. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif canceled a planned visit to the United States after the violence, telling his nation Monday in a televised address that his government would not allow terrorists to play with Pakistani lives. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. As we can see there, everything up. The Dow 97, NASDAQ 79, S&P 500 also up at 17. Coming up on News 2, we'll have the latest on the Zika fight. A new report from the Department of Health is released. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The VI Democratic Party is preparing for the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia on July 25th to the 28th. On June 4th, local Democrats will caucus to vote for either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders to be the party's nominee as the next U.S. president. Democrats will also vote for candidates vying for at-large delegate seats throughout the territory. Individuals who want to run must file a statement of candidacy by May 3rd, 2016. Candidates for at-large delegates will pledge support for Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, or remain uncommitted. The 7 at-large delegates, in addition to an alternate and a page, will join the current superdelegates of the VI delegation. The superdelegates are Congressional Delegate Stacey Plaskett, Cecil Benjamin, State Chair, Reese Richards, Vice Chair, Carol M. Burke, National Committee Woman, and Emmett Hansen, Committeeman. For more information, you can call 340-626-1576 or 340-642-1553. Senate President Neville James said that the U.S. plans to restore diplomatic relations with Cuba and possibly lift its economic embargo on the island will have a major impact on the Caribbean trade and tourism particularly in the USVI. He said he disagreed with Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett's choice to not accompany President Obama on his historic trip. He says the best way to handle the lift on the U.S. travel ban to Cuba lies in the territory's cooperation and collaboration with the federal government and the VI. One of America's closest island neighbors to Cuba, aside from Puerto Rico, should remain at the table as Obama's administration continues to build their relationship with Cuba. As we reported, Zika is now confirmed both on St. Thomas and St. Croix, and officials are seeing a rise in numbers in the near future. Vector control experts are therefore asking residents to do their part in battling an increase in mosquito population using simple steps at home. NEWS2's April Knight has details.
With the recent confirmed case of Zika in a 39-year-old St. Thomas male, cases are expected to rise on the island.
We do expect that there will be more on the island, on St. Thomas, just because, we still have labs pending for about test results right now. So we do expect that there will be more cases.
According to the Centers for Disease Control, while St. Croix presented a majority of the reports and confirmed cases, their Zika combating efforts have been split between the two districts.
We have staff based on both islands, both on St. Croix and on St. Thomas. We've had staff over on St. Thomas since early March.
Vector Disease Control International was hired by the CDC to fight mosquito populations in the homes of pregnant women considered at risk for Zika. The private contractor also urges residents to do their own mosquito control.
One mosquito can lay almost 300 eggs per day, so you have exponential problems very quickly. So one mosquito lays 300 eggs, each of those lays 300 eggs, you've got 9,000, 900,000. You have a big problem very quickly. After rain, just clean up the trash as quickly as you can. Dump any standing water. I'd say check any standing water at least weekly. Like I said, anywhere between 4 to 10 days, these mosquitoes can go from egg to an adult. So.
As for individuals, health officials stress use mosquito repellent and wear protective clothing, because it only takes one mosquito bite to get infected. For News 2, I'm April Knight.
Also, the Department of Health has released its weekly surveillance report showing Zika numbers holding steady. The confirmed cases are still at 12, and 11 of those are on St. Croix. There are now 77 reported cases, 51 on St. Croix, 25 on St. Thomas, and 1 on St. John. 62 test results are still pending from the CDC lab. Health officials also report 4 new dengue cases in the territory, bringing the total up to 11. Charlesworth McCarty, Director of Maintenance and Plant Operations, the St. Thomas-St. John District of the Department of Education, paired some of his top electricians with high school students eager to learn the trade. Mr. McCarthy's students shadowing maintenance program, SSM, that began taking shape in January when he saw a need for various skilled workers in the areas of electrical and air conditioning, refrigeration, carpentry, plumbing, and other trades. He therefore visited Chaldatamali and Ivana Udoracan High School and gave some presentations. In the end, 3 students from CAHS began shadowing trained electricians in February. The students now perform electrical work around the CAHS campus and at other district schools and receive a grade for that. Kudos to the students and the organizers. Sharena Warner was crowned Miss USVI 2016-2017 at the 36th Annual Miss UVI Ambassadorial Competition held Saturday, March 26 at the Reichel Center. Warner, a junior communication major, originally from St. Kitts, aspires to become a news anchor reporter. She will use her skills as a communication major to promote her platform, The Beauty Myth. Warner will receive a full-year UVI scholarship. Khadijah Lee was named first runner-up, Patricia Francis awarded second, and Lisa Marie Hodge was third. Warner also won Most Eloquent Intellectual Speaker, Best Evening Wear, and Best Ambassadorial Presentation. There was a lot of action in the past few days on the waters surrounding St. Thomas and St. John. Sailors from across the country braved blustery conditions for the 43rd St. Thomas International Regatta, but not all of them could be winners. And speaking of winners, we have the list. 2015 Rolex Yachtsman of the Year went to Steve Benjamin. His TP5052 Spooky won the Tune-Up Round the Rocks race on Thursday and also won in the CSA Spinnaker Racing 1 class. In CSA Spinnaker Racing 2, It was Long Beach, California's Doug Baker and his team on the chartered J122 team Magnitude El Ocaso that bested the class. Puerto Rico's Jonathan Lipashek and his crew on the J105 Dark Star took first in Spinnaker Racing 3. In the CSA non-Spinnaker class, Jack Desmond's Swan 48 Affinity took top honors. For the full results, all the full results, you can visit www.stthomasinternationalregatta.com. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.